Welcome back to my garage. I've traveled to you from the future, a future where almost all the small bits and pieces needed for this to start up for the first time are done, and the coolant is heating up. 50cc two-stroke engine with a Rotrex centrifugal supercharger, 48mm carb, 48, running methanol and nitromethane. This has evolved over a long period of time. You really need to go watch my other videos to get a good grip on it. Jävla idiot. Not a very good idea. The blades didn't stay together. Made 2 grooves versus 1. For fuck. It was meant to go the other way around. I have to take it off again. I forgot to drill and tap a hole for retention. I think it's fine doing that while it's mounted though. A little bit of explaining before I do the full explanation. This chain is far too tight now, and this is far too loose. There's no tensioner for this motor yet. I'm not sure I'm gonna need one. I'm gonna tension this belt now as much as I can. Then I'm gonna loosen up this chain. I know this will cause enough tension for this chain, and if we're lucky, it'll cause enough tension for the belt also. There's no hole here for a drill to engage the crank on the nut and spin the engine. There's no big nut on the Rotrex pulley. I had a nut on the AMR pulley. I could start it from there. I could start it from the other side. There's a hole there for starting, but it's really cumbersome starting it from the wrong side of the dyno frame. Probably guessed it already. This is a starting motor. I borrowed the pulley part from a Doppler SPX clutch pulley. Made this bearing carrier for it. There's two one-way clutch bearings in there. Spins freely in this direction. Not in this direction. This is an old motor that's been kicking about here for ages. This is the pulley that came with it. It's not the correct pulley for this kind of belt, and it's probably too big. Might be the motor will just stall and we trip the breaker, or the belt will slip. We'll find out now. First, without the plug installed in the engine, there's not much resistance there. And keep in mind, this has to spin the whole assembly now. Power to the motor in 3, 2, 1. That pulley is far too large. It's not enough power here. I'll have to machine a smaller pulley. It's impossible for me to set the compound to the correct angle. It hits my hand wheel here. Might have to move it to here. Let's see. Problem now is my head is in the way. After that fight to make this, you'd think the universe would reward me and make it easy to pull this off. But of course that little bolt snapped as soon as I tried to remove it. And 3, 2, 1, power. Well, that wasn't exactly the speed I was hoping for. Either this motor is really weak, or this is really hard to turn, even without the spark plug in there. Turns out that big hunking motor is just really weak. I can easily turn it with my battery powered drill. I'm glad I didn't machine anything special for the motor mount now, that I just made it out of wood. We're gonna make some new stuff from this bearing block I made earlier, and this drill I bought for the purpose. Let's get back to work. I wonder if me violently hammering this onto the other axle removed some material and made it not so tight anymore. I'll need to drill through and roll pin this now. Let's hope this is as powerful as advertised. Perfect. But can it still do it with proper compression with the plug in there? My prayers have been heard. Before we finish up those last bits and pieces, I want to thank Toyo for supporting the channel. A while back they sent me this nice 0 to 25mm micrometer and these nice calipers. Now they sent me this just as nice 25 to 50mm micrometer, this awesome long travel digital indicator, this 1 micron test indicator, and these super long calipers. I've really missed having long calipers for somewhat precise measurements of larger things. And they've sent me this nice indicator stand, which will come in handy for roundness checking, taper checking, all kinds of stuff. I really feel I'm not worthy of these tools. That's why I made this dedicated drawer to keep them out of sight. I'm just using a small amount of fuel at first, just in case there's any leaks. I'm gonna add in a relay here and a switch on my control panel. For now we're just hooking the battery directly to the pump. For airflow through the Rotrex oil cooler, I've got this battery fan. When I bought my first Ryobi tool, I promised myself to not get sucked into that one battery for all the units, buy a bunch of them thing. Well, look at me now. A little talk before I turn on the exhaust extraction with the noise. I'm spinning the supercharger at about 1.66 to 1. 1.66 revolution of the crankshaft for 1 revolution of the supercharger. I've studied the compressor map. Depending on how much airflow is going through the engine, there's quite a bit of valve overlap here. I'm hoping we're within reason for what this supercharger wants. My prediction and main concern is that there's not enough flow at the low RPM where the pipe is fighting the engine, and we can't get over that hump to get into the power band. Could help with some reads. I'm starting off with 15 degrees of ignition advanced, flatline. If we're having trouble getting over that destructive resonance hump, we can add in a bunch of timing. That should help. Did help last time. Let's see if it will start first, then let's see if it will run, and let's see if we can get it into the power band. Let's try squirting in some flammable stuff through this port. Preferably some starting fluid. I haven't got any though. I'll buy some later. You can try with some gas first. Starting fluid will be much easier to deal with. I'll try this first. We need to figure out if it's getting too much or not enough fuel. Too much is hard to believe. I was basically pouring in fuel when we had it running last time with the AMR, the roots blower. My testing with the syringe didn't really give any conclusive results. We need some starting fluid. I will need to purge the whole system though, which means we'll have to run it on gas. And gas wants far less fuel versus air compared to methanol and nitromethane. So that might give us some hints. I'll give it a quick squirt with the pump. Purge as much as possible from the system. If it runs better now while purging, it's safe to say it's running lean on the other fuel. It seemed like it was getting progressively worse as the methanol nitromethane mix was replaced by gasoline. Makes me think it's running rich, which is great because we've got a lot of adjustability in that direction. To be sure and for easier starting, I'm gonna go get some starting fluid. I went and bought some starting fluid, and in the car on my way down there, I was thinking, and I think I almost fell for the oldest trick in the book. You know, when you have an intake leak, your engine will run lean because it's sucking in air. What's not so obvious is that with a leak in the crankcase, your engine will not run lean. It won't suck in air from a minor leak in the crankcase. It will push mixture out though, and it will make the engine act like it's running rich. Really rich. It's not really rich, it's just having a hard time pushing mixture up from the crankcase into the cylinder. Remember, there's no valve between my carb and the engine. When I open the throttle, there's just a gaping hole into the crankcase. With the roots blower, that's not a problem because it's pushing a set amount of air for every rotation, regardless of engine speed. Not the case with the centrifugal supercharger. As I suspected, it seems like it's not pushing enough air at the low RPM to make the engine run properly. We could switch out the ratio, make it spin faster at lower RPM, but then we'll run into problems at higher RPM where it's spinning too fast for itself. We could install a reverse variator setup where this pulley is expanding with speed whilst the other pulley is getting smaller, making this spin faster versus RPM as RPM is rising. Or we could use a small reed valve and install it on something like this so that we can pull it out of the way when that blower gets up to speed. That's exactly what I'm going to do. On the opposite side of the engine sits the old primary intake, and it's meant to accept this size reed valve. From experience, I know this engine will be difficult to get from low RPM to high RPM because of the large crankcase volume. To give us a fighting chance, we're gonna stuff the area meant for this reed block on the opposite side of the engine, the old primary intake. I'm gonna make a stuffer to fill in the volume where that reed valve was supposed to sit. This is what was meant to be the secondary intake on this engine, without the blower. Just a simple slide air valve. Plan now is to modify this into a sliding reed valve. In closed position there will be a reed pedal here, making it a reed valved engine. In open position there's just a hole. Won't be a very good flowing reed valve, but it doesn't matter, it's just meant to bring the engine up to RPM. Then we open it. That's the wrong side. It's supposed to be here. I will need to close up this anyway. It's not that big of a deal, but annoying nonetheless. Repeat. read action. Open gate. I'll make a thin cover plate to cover this up. Even without my screw up here, it would have leaked badly because it was meant to only run air. Paid no attention to keeping it sealed. Just occurred to me that I've put the reed valve on the wrong side of the slide. This really isn't my day, is it? Doesn't really matter, I can run the valve like upside down. It'll mount both ways, but really stupid. Time to seal it up and lock tight on the screw for the reed. I'm setting up to make that intake stuffer. For jobs like this, it's crucial to have your vise dialed into at least within 1 micron. Dip in the middle from clamping hard gear teeth, doesn't matter though. With all the added stuff in here now, I couldn't run a through bolt anymore. It would interfere with all that added stuff. I had to drill out to the next size and make a different bushing. The stuffer needs to be fixed to this flange, and I need to grind some channels for air to pass through into the sensors and this line. I'll quickly grind some channels and drill some holes and fix it off camera and bring you back. Running out of time. Drilled and tapped some holes, ground some relief here and down the side here to be sure, and relief in the gasket. Should be enough gap for air to come through without that groove, but just to be on the safe side. Here's my sliding reed actuator for now. Ready. I'm seriously running out of time, so this will be the end of the video, regardless of the outcome. If the reed breaks or... Might be a success though, we'll see. I've taken the chain off from the retarder drive. Let's see if it's better without that lugging along. Maybe we'll need to reintroduce a clutch system here now. No luck. Let's purge it, see how it behaves on gas, and then take off the carb and look at the reed valve. I'm not feeling enough travel on my lever here. I think the reed valve is stuck, slightly open. We'll have a look. Yep, as suspected, the valve is not fully shut. And it's really hard to pull now. Probably need some more clearance there or a different material. The reed is fine though. Next time will be a success.